Hello again. The public inquiry into Britain's handling of the COVID business is certainly throwing up some fascinating insights into the minds of people who were ordering us about so much during the lockdowns. Many of them are now claiming to have known all along that a lot of the steps taken during those strange days were counterproductive and likely to make matters worse rather than to help us stay healthy. They just didn't like to say so at the time, apparently. For instance, I'm sure that we all remember when we were told to stay indoors unless we were out buying food and getting an hour's exercise. Many of us felt that this was mad because the best way to keep healthy is, of course, to be in the fresh air and sunshine rather than stay cooped up indoors with other people. That is, after all, why there are so many coughs and colds and cases of flu during the winter. Because people tend to huddle indoors together and pass on their germs to each other. Surely it would have been better to encourage folk to get out in the open as much as possible. However, we all recall park benches being taped off to prevent us sitting on them, and the police patrolling beaches and telling people to go home and sit indoors with their families rather than laying in the sun and breathing in all that fresh air. I always assumed that those lockdowns were based upon sound advice supplied by scientists like Chris Whitty, the chief medical officer for England, who used to appear on the television so much at that time. Now, though, he is saying that it was a terrible idea for people to stay indoors like that. He says that senior scientists knew all along that it was safer for people to be out of doors instead of staying at home. In the description to this video, I give a link to a newspaper report in which Chris Whitty tells us this. But why didn't he have said so at the time? I had the distinct impression that he, like all those other senior scientists of whom he speaks, were advising the government about handling the epidemic. Boris Johnson, it now turns out, did not approve of all those strict rules either. Speaking at the public inquiry, he said that children could have been exempt from social distancing rules. And he says too that shutting schools during the pandemic was a nightmare idea, as he puts it, which he wanted to avoid at all costs. And he had a personal horror over the idea because he thought that those in the classrooms would be bad for the less well off families. The question which immediately springs to mind is if both the Prime Minister and the Chief Medical Officer thought that the lockdowns were such a bad idea, who actually ordered them? Who was in charge in this country during the COVID epidemic? If senior scientists didn't think a lot of this stuff was a good idea and the Prime Minister disapproved of it, then why were we doing all those things? Why were we all told to stay indoors and the schools to shut if both those two men thought that such things were a bad idea? There is something very mysterious about it all. Unless, of course, they are both lying their heads off to the inquiry.